The courtroom was filled that Tuesday morning, appearing to be just another routine day in Providence Municipal Court, until Judge Frank Caprio called the next case, and everything shifted. A man stepped forward, said his name, and suddenly the judge, who had seen nearly everything, paused in complete silence. What followed left everyone in the room without words and served as a reminder that certain debts in life can never truly be repaid. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we continue with this real account of recognition, gratitude, and an unexpected moment in court, share in the comments. Has anyone ever recognized your family name and told a story that changed your understanding of your past? And make sure to subscribe. These stories deserve to be remembered. Providence Municipal Court works consistently every weekday morning. Judge Frank Caprio, now in his 80s, has served here for more than 30 years. He has watched every type of case come through, simple mistakes, honest explanations, and difficult situations. He has observed both kindness and frustration from those who stand before him. But on that March morning, something occurred that affected him more deeply than expected. The courtroom was more crowded than usual. Traffic tickets, parking violations, minor offenses, the typical schedule for a Tuesday. Judge Caprio handled each matter with his familiar mix of insight, light humor, and empathy. An older woman, unable to pay her parking fine, had it forgiven. A young man who made a genuine error was given another chance. Then it was time for case number 47, a routine speeding violation. Nothing that stood out, a citation for going 15 miles per hour over the limit on Route 95. The defendant appeared to be a man in his early 50s, dressed neatly in a pressed button-down shirt and dark slacks. He approached the podium with the calm assurance of someone who had dealt with much greater challenges than a traffic violation. "State your name for the record," Judge Caprio said, still reviewing his paperwork. "Michael Anthony Torino, Your Honor." The judge's pen stopped mid-stroke. He slowly lifted his head from the documents. The name seemed to linger in the air, like a memory pulled from another era. Judge Caprio looked at the man, his expression shifting from routine focus to something more reflective. Recognition blended with surprise. The courtroom grew unusually still. Those familiar with Judge Caprio noticed the change immediately. His longtime assistant, Maria, who had worked beside him for 15 years, had never seen him respond this way to a simple introduction. "Torino," the judge repeated softly, almost as though speaking to himself. "Michael. Torino." The defendant seemed slightly confused but remained respectful. "Yes, Your Honor." "That's correct." Judge Caprio placed his pen down fully now. His hands, shaped by decades of judgments and careful decisions, seemed to carry a quiet weight. "Son, I need to ask you something," he said, his voice steady yet personal. "And I hope you'll allow an old judge a small moment. What was your father's name?" Michael stood a bit straighter, clearly unsure why this mattered. "Anthony Torino, Your Honor. He passed away 12 years ago." The shift in Judge Caprio was immediate and significant. A stillness fell over him. For a brief moment, the judge who had led courtrooms with unwavering authority appeared touched by memory, almost softened. Court officers exchanged uncertain looks. The stenographer paused her keys. "Anthony Torino," the judge repeated quietly. "Big Tony, worked construction, strong as they come, hands like he could move the world." And a laugh everyone in the neighborhood remembered. Michael's expression changed, eyes widening. You knew my father?" What followed next would be remembered in the Providence courthouse for years to come. Judge Caprio rose slowly, something he rarely did during court. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of years of experience and memory. "Know him, son? Your father saved my life." The courtroom became completely silent. Even the usual movements and quiet side conversations stopped. Everyone seemed to recognize that something meaningful was happening. Judge Caprio stepped down from the bench and walked toward the defendant's podium, a gesture almost never seen in his courtroom. Formal procedure didn't matter in that moment. This was beyond that. It was 1987, he continued, his tone steady but filled with feeling. "I was a young attorney then, not yet a judge. I was handling a case involving a construction worker who had been injured when scaffolding collapsed at a site downtown." Michael listened carefully, his traffic violation no longer the focus. The rest of the courtroom also seemed to forget why they were there. "Your father was the foreman on that project. They used to call him Big Tony," Caprio said, He was scheduled to be a witness, but I could tell he was uneasy. Many construction workers, especially the Italian men from Federal Hill, didn't always feel comfortable with lawyers or courtrooms. But your father, he stood apart. The judge paused, taking a moment as the memory returned clearly. The night before the trial, I left my office very late, around 10 o'clock. I walked to my car in the parking lot behind the old courthouse on Dorrance Street. You remember that area? How it would get dark around 9. Michael nodded, taking in every detail. 3 men walked up to me. I could smell alcohol on them, and I could see the anger in their expressions. They knew who I was, knew I was representing the injured worker. They didn't want that case moving forward. They wanted it dropped. Judge Caprio's voice became quieter, more focused. They weren't making a request, son. They were issuing a command. And when I refused, well, the situation quickly turned violent. The courtroom was silent, so still you could hear the old heating system in the background. I ended up on the ground. One of them was holding a pipe. I honestly believed that was going to be the end for me. That I would die in a parking lot simply for trying to help someone get the justice they deserved. Michael's hands tightened slightly as he listened. And then suddenly there was a voice, deep, strong, with that unmistakable Federal Hill tone. "Hey, you pieces of garbage, leave him alone." Your father appeared like a force you couldn't ignore. 6'2", around 240 pounds, built from years of construction work. Judge Caprio's eyes reflected the memory clearly. Those 3 men saw him and didn't hesitate. They ran, not walked, ran. Your father helped me stand, brushed off my jacket, and asked if I was all right. When I thanked him, do you know what he said? Michael slowly shook his head, fully engaged. He said, "No one should suffer for doing the right thing, counselor. Go win that case tomorrow." Then he simply walked away. Judge Caprio gently wiped his eyes, unconcerned that the entire courtroom was watching. I won that case, Michael. The injured worker received the compensation he was entitled to. His family kept their home. His children stayed in school. And it happened because your father gave me the strength to continue fighting for what was fair. The emotional weight in the room was noticeable. A number of people in the audience were quietly wiping their eyes. But the story doesn't end there, Judge Caprio continued. A week later, Tony came to my office. He didn't want attention, praise, or any kind of reward. He only wanted to make sure I was doing all right. We talked for nearly 2 hours. He told me about his family, about you. You were still a teenager at the time. He was deeply proud of you, son. Truly proud. Michael's voice was unsteady when he finally responded. He never told me any of this. That was your father, Judge Caprio said. He didn't do good things to be seen or celebrated. He did them because they were right. And I'll tell you something else he shared with me that day. He said he hoped that when you grew older, you would understand what it means to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Judge Caprio looked straight at Michael. He told me he wanted to raise you to be a better man than he was, the judge said, which seemed almost impossible to me because I had never known someone better. The judge paused, steadying his voice. I tried to find him years later when I became a judge. I wanted to thank him properly, maybe offer something meaningful to your family. But by the time I searched, he had moved and I couldn't locate him. I always regretted that. Your Honor, Michael replied softly. My father used to talk about his work and the people he met. He always said that helping others mattered more than money or recognition. I just wish I had known this story. Judge Caprio returned to his bench, but his tone was completely changed. This was no longer only about a traffic ticket. This was one person acknowledging another's lasting impact. Michael, Anthony Torino, the judge said, formally. You're here today for a speeding. Violation 15 miles over the limit on Route 95. Yes, Your Honor. Son, I need you to understand something. The debt I owe your family cannot be repaid. Your father didn't just protect my life that night. He preserved my ability to continue serving justice in this courtroom for more than 30 years. Every case I've heard, every person I've supported, every instance of fairness I've tried to provide, all of it exists because of Big Tony Torino's courage. The judge lifted his gavel, but instead of striking it, he paused, choosing his words with intention. Now some may argue that what I'm about to do isn't strictly fair. Some will insist that justice should ignore personal history. But here's what Big Tony taught me that night. Sometimes doing what is right means placing humanity above procedure. He looked directly at Michael. Case dismissed. The fine is waived. The points are removed from your record, and the violation is expunged, but I'm not making this decision solely because of what your father once did for me. Michael looked uncertain. I'm doing this because of the life you have lived since then. While we were speaking, my bailiff completed a routine background check, standard protocol. Would you like to tell the court what you do for work, Mr. Torino? Michael hesitated. I'm a paramedic, Your Honor. Providence Emergency Medical Services. The judge smiled, warm and genuine, changing the entire tone of the room. 22 years of service, 17 commendations, 3 life-saving awards, and you have personally saved 43 lives in the line of duty. The courtroom broke into applause, unprompted. Michael looked overwhelmed. You see, your father was right. He did raise you to rise above him, though I still believe matching him would already be a remarkable achievement. You've dedicated your life to protecting those who cannot protect themselves, just as he did. Judge Caprio stood once more. Big Tony Torino saved one life 37 years ago. Mine. His son has saved 43 lives since. I would say that debt has been repaid. With interest. The emotional effect on everyone in the room was significant. Court officers, other defendants waiting for their hearings, and regular observers all recognized they had witnessed something meaningful. Mr. Torino, Judge Caprio concluded, drive carefully. Your father would be proud, and this community needs you to continue the work you do. As Michael stepped away from the podium, Judge Caprio added, and Michael, thank you for everything your family has contributed to this city. That moment in the Providence Municipal Court quickly became memorable. Word moved through the courthouse, then throughout the city, and later across the world through social media and news reports. This was not simply a dismissed traffic citation. It became a reminder of the influence of gratitude, generational service, and how one act of courage can echo for years. Judge Frank Caprio has long been respected for his empathy and fairness, but that day reaffirmed why certain individuals become more than public officials. They become representations of the best qualities in people. Michael Torino continues his work as a paramedic in Providence. He still drives along Route 95 each day, and every time he passes the courthouse, he remembers his father and the judge whose life Big Tony once saved through courage and integrity, and Judge Caprio now keeps a small framed photograph on his desk, a construction site image from 1987 that Michael gave him the following week. In the photo, Anthony Big Tony Torino stands beside his group, wearing that same wide, warm smile his son remembered so clearly. Sometimes the strongest debts aren't about money, they're personal. And sometimes justice goes beyond legal judgment. It can be about love, legacy, and choosing to do the right thing even when no one is there to see it. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it. Let others know that heroism doesn't always appear in a uniform or with a badge. Sometimes it's simply someone in a parking lot at 10 p.m., unwilling to let wrongdoing prevail. What would you do if you met someone whose family had changed your life? Share your thoughts in the comments. And remember to subscribe for more stories that remind us why believing in humanity still matters.